Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, species around the Omniverse, welcome to Geek Syndicate. I am Monts. Oh, what Geek Syndicate? What do we do? Let me tell you what we do. We bring the sass back to geekdom. I am Monts, and with me, as always, is
Nuge. Nuge is here, ready to chat.
Ready to chat. What?
Well, normally I'd say bollocks, but in this case, well, it depends. Depends what side of the Snyder Cut fence you sit on.
Talking of which, my mate Oscar.
Oh yeah.
He was up in Alaska where it's like proper cold, and he was looking for Will Smith, and he just couldn't find him anyway. He's looking around in the snow, and he realised he just had to follow the Fresh Prince. Fresh Prince, because it's a play on words, right? Shall I go into more detail?
No.
Okay.
No. Because you're supposed to set when you do the intro, right? I don't know if you understand how intros work, especially on a podcast, but you're supposed to set the tone to kind of keep the spirits up. So we get into it. We get into rhythm. We get into like a flow, and you're just killing it, man. You're killing me.
But like Fresh Prince,
it's not funny. It's not funny.
I giggled about that one for days. Yeah. Okay, so moving on.
Swiftly.
We wanted to talk about the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. So just trying to work out where to start. I know where to start. Just quickly, what did you think of the theatrical cut?
So, no, I actually think we need to step even a step further back.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I kind of want to say before we get into it that because there just seems to be a camp of people that there's two like really emotive camps. I don't necessarily think I sit in either camp, but there's two really emotive camps. There's a camp where you even mention Zack Snyder and people will just like burn effigies of you at the stake. Do you know what I mean? Because he's a hack. He's this. He's that.
He's self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
And on the other side, you've got like this, fervent group of people that just think he's the doc. You know what I mean? He can't do no wrong. Everything he touches is the best thing ever.
And I have to say, I blatantly don't understand either side.
No, because
I'm watching people I know on Facebook, and it's like the merest mention of Zack Snyder, and they're just vitriolic, and I'm like, but do you know what? There's not a single person alive who I like everything they do.
Yeah.
Or what my question is, do I like this particular piece of work?
Yeah.
And to enjoy it, I don't even have to like everything about it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think for me, where I find it, I don't know, and I suppose it's because the films that he's done. I mean, Sucker Punch is a different story, but like I'm talking about the DC films. Do you know what I mean? And we'll get into it as we go on, but I've enjoyed them. We've said it. We've talked about them at length on the podcast. Do you know what I mean? I've enjoyed them. So I guess when I went into Justice League, I wasn't really going into it expecting to like it to be awful or anything like that. I was just gonna go, I'll give it a go. As long as I'm in 10, I quite like look at the trailers, blah blah blah. So overall, first time around, I enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? It didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it compared to the last Justice League film I saw, which was...
I'd wipe that from my mind till something reminded me of it. Like yesterday, it was like, oh, wow, yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, what Justice League film? There was another Justice League film. You go and do a search on YouTube, see if you can find it.
And I would say this is one of those ones where there are some films that are so bad they're not worth watching, but this is so bad it's worth a watch. Yes. I think I remember just like going, what on earth? How did this get a green light? I don't know. But it was great. I mean, it wasn't great at all, but it was but also great. It had characters from one of my favorite runs of the Justice League comic, which was like Justice League International. Mm-hmm. So it had Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Was Booster Gold in it? I don't know. Had the Atom. No Atom I've ever seen before though.
Atom was chunky, if I remember.
He was proper chunky. Fire. Had got Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern. Had Fire and Ice. And it's like you don't look like you're saving nobody. To be
no.
Low budget. It was just like,
yeah, I was gonna say the only thing they were saving was the budget, man.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of him now, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
If you saw these bunch of heroes running towards you, you'd be like, you know what? I'll take care of things myself. I mean, why you not even flying?
It wasn't. I don't even really remember that much about it. I just remember a shot of them walking down the street. I just remember them walking down the street, and even me as a kid watching it, thinking, quite frankly, this looks a bit ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
Because it was.
Yeah.
It's still worth a watch just for novelty.
So I think, and this is the thing. Sometimes I'm not trying to be one of them old fogies like I remember when, but it's important to note that that's part of my benchmark when I'm looking at some of these films. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're not lying, man.
So there are younger people out there now where their benchmark is, say, the Marvel movies. Do you know what I mean? Or even the earlier DC movies. You know. But for me, I do remember the time where that was as good as you thought you were gonna get.
Yeah.
So to me, to go from that to go to this version of Justice League, I'm like, well, you know what?
I think the problem was, I mean, I feel I do. Having said that, I do feel like I was a bit spoiled by Marvel films.
Yeah.
And I think my problem was, I was hopeful because, everyone could talk about Marvel film, and I see people going, "Oh, there's a New Mutants film. Have you seen it?" And they're talking about characters who I've never heard of. And you put a Spider-Man film, I'll watch it and enjoy it, but I've got no sentimental attachment to Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. My early days are pure DC, and in terms of supergroups, Justice League was my jam. Yeah. So when the movie's coming, I'm like, okay, now you've got a chance to start making ground again. Yeah, because you lose it if it's a competition. I'm not saying it is, but it is. If it's a competition, you're losing ground to Marvel. Now's your time. Yeah, now's your time to shine because you're going all in. This is Justice League, baby. And I did a Facebook. I remember I was walking home and I did a Facebook Live after seeing it. And I think what I had was, I think my words were, I didn't hate it, but what I have experienced is intense disappointment. And actually, I remember saying, maybe you shouldn't have gone with Justice League. Go with something like Doom Patrol, which is going to force you to think outside the box. Maybe make that your flagship. And then Doom Patrol TV show came along and is definitely outside the box thinking, and I love it. But yeah, I just remember being intensely disappointed. Yeah, and then hearing about the director's cut, the Snyder cut, and going, and then looking at how long it was and going, this ain't no cut. And then watching the trailers and going, this looks like a different movie.
Yeah, because that's what we were saying, isn't it? We were bouncing around WhatsApp messages just going. I remember when they dropped the first sort of teaser thing, and I was just like, what?
Yeah. Totally.
The tone, everything just felt different. And it brought up in my mind one of the things about the, as they call it now, the Justice League. Which I quite like that. Is that it felt the tone of it, and maybe that's why I didn't, I enjoy it, but it was like, I found it quite forgettable, and I think it's because the tone of it felt so different from what I'd gone before with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Whether or not you like those films, for me, I enjoyed those films, but the tone of those films were consistent. Do you get what I'm saying? And it just felt like that tone just completely went out the window with Justice League. It just felt like it was a different type of film. Do you know what I mean? It felt more like you could have picked up that film and pushed it as an MCU film. That's not knocking the MCU. I'm just saying it had a lot of those fingerprints because it was Joss Whedon, and a lot of what you know from the Joss Whedon stuff and the Avengers felt very similar.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing. It felt like it was trying to compete with that, and you can't.
Yeah,
you got to go. All right, DC, this is what we do. And the thing is, it's. So I'm going to talk about just certain choices that have made with the DC universe. Does it come over as darker than the MCU? Yeah, it does. Is the color palette sort of grimmer color palette? Yeah, it is. Would I have initially chosen those things? No, I wouldn't. I'll be honest, I wouldn't. However, that's where we are, and you got to kind of commit to that.
Yeah.
Keep that internal integrity. And I felt like that Justice League was trying to keep that whilst trying to pay homage to the Marvel universe. And I think you can't. You got to be your own thing, whether people like that or not. And so, and this is kind of, I feel like the Snyder Cut has just been unapologetically what it is, unapologetically Snyder. And some people who don't like Snyder ain't gonna like it. People who do like it are gonna like it. People who just evaluate it for what it was will take it for what it was. You know what I mean?
So let's. I mean, we're good. You know, like you said, you wanted to talk about some of the wider stuff, but let's get into it. Do you know what I mean? So before we properly start, I want to say, obviously, we're gonna spoil the heck out of the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, that's not even there.
So you know what I mean? If you.
So I want to say this before I start. So I knew it was Saturday. My wife was taking the kids to grandma's, so I knew I was going to be alone at home, and I was set up. I was set. I cannot explain to you, Barry, how excited I was to watch this. And it wasn't just the fact that I was going to be on my own for a couple of days. It was like I was excited, and I was scared because I thought my expectations are high again. I'm not going into it with low expectations and hoping to be surprised. I'm going in with high expectations.
Well, the thing was as well is like I'd watched it on Friday. When did it drop? It dropped on the Friday, didn't it?
It dropped on the Friday.
Friday, yeah. I watched it on the Friday only. It was just happenstance. I hadn't planned it, but I happened to have the Friday off work. I thought it'd been a while since I'd taken a day off or whatever, so I'd taken off the Friday, and then obviously, and then it all sort of came together, and I was like, you know what? And in my head, I remember them saying that it was going to be split into parts, and we talked a little bit about it before, but in my head I was like, you know what, maybe I won't watch it all, you know. 4 hours, you know. I'll watch a
who could do 4 hours on the trot.
Yeah, you know, and it was, and they were gonna like bring it out episodic. That originally it was gonna be like a little mini series. So, yeah, maybe I can do that over 4 days, hour every day. Yeah, fuck that shit, man.
All the way.
I didn't do it all in one sitting, as only because people kept ringing my doorbell.
I did it. I mean, I had a couple stops like making you drink to do whatever. Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about. I went all the way through, and it didn't feel like 4 hours to me. I'll be honest.
No, it didn't.
So the other thing I did, so that week, I decided I was gonna watch Batman versus Superman, the director's cut, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, which I did as well.
So I watched that. That also felt much better watching the director's cut, and then that made me go, do you know what? I remember watching this before, and like, even though it's slightly confusing, which you realise it's confusing because there was so much left out, it made me all excited about Wonder Woman all over again. So I went back and watched Wonder Woman, and then Saturday morning, I was like, you know, I've got to talk quietly now, so my wife doesn't hear me, because I was left at home to get work done, like while the kids were away, and I watched Man of Steel. So literally, I mean, not quite in the right order, but in the few days coming up to it, I'd watched all of the DC Extended Universe films.
What about Aquaman?
Aquaman happens after Justice League, so I thought, I'll let that go. And one of the things so very quickly, I'm going to say this: Wonder Woman, absolutely loved that film, in my top 5. Yeah. Man of Steel, I know people have got issues with this film. It was good.
Yeah. I
watched it and I enjoyed it. And some of the things that people had issue with, and I remember at the time going, yeah, I understand those issues. Watching it again now, I'm like, nah. You need to kill your beans. That's just nonsense. Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it. And watching it again, and that Martha moment, everyone's going, oh, he stopped because like they both got the same mums. That's ridiculous. No, it's because he needed to understand why he was using that name. You know, it's a name that had significance to him, and it made him draw up. But we've both said that when we hear similar names, we draw up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's especially what happens when you've lost people. Yeah, and if we want to get started on that, I will take people down because I'm living in that place where 6 years since I lost my daughter, it's still fresh to me. And if someone says the name Grace, I'm stopped. You got me, and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna do whatever. On a on a side note, I just realized, what's your dad's name?
Noel.
So, what's your mum's name?
Isilda. We had this conversation didn't we, before about
Like,
Isilda.
yeah. And I was just going through some stuff, and I suddenly went. I found two. I'm going through a whole heap of stuff, and I had two funeral service order of service, and one was my favorite uncle, one was your dad. I went, shit, they got the same name.
Have they?
Yeah, I've got an auntie called Isilda, and my favorite uncle's called Noel.
I knew there was an Isilda, and for people who are direct, it's not a common name. Tell me.
Yeah, Aunt Icy and Uncle Noel, man.
Wow.
And I was like, and I remember thinking about this. Do you know what I mean? When we first discovered that your mum might had the same name, that we both kind of stopped and just looked at each other, and I'm like, that's what happens when you lost people that matter to you. Those names take on extra significance. So I'm like, I see it, but it wasn't as simple as like, oh, we've both got the same mum's names. They didn't even explore that. It was just like, why are you saying that name?
Yeah.
And then he slowly began to realize the humanity of the alien. And I'm like, you all need to just chill your beans. You're just on one now. So anyway, I loved it. I didn't bother with Suicide Squad because that's one with DC. I'm not excusing you that one.
That's a step too far.
Yeah, just like Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is a great movie, but it's not Birds of Prey. You know what I mean?
It's a great Harlequin movie.
Yeah. Aquaman and Shazam I loved, but we're not talking about them because they don't come yet.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's happened here, and we'll probably circle around back to this, is you suddenly see this huge. We often talk about the Marvel movies and how they've managed to link things together and get this narrative going. There is no more involved narrative, more overarching epic than what they have done throughout Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and Justice League.
Yeah,
it's impressive. I'm gonna say it, and it's made me reevaluate how I've generally felt about the DC extended universe.
Wow. So is it that thing that people, you know what I mean, need to go back and kind of revisit it?
I think so, because I'll be honest, I loved Wonder Woman. Man of Steel, I liked it, but like full of issues. Batman versus Superman, I enjoyed it, but full of issues. Justice League, intensely disappointed. Now I've gone back and watched them, and the ones that have director's cut I've watched, I've suddenly gone, whoa. What was that? I have missed stuff before. Obviously, I must have missed stuff. Rewatching it again and rewatching it in that close proximity to each other has completely changed how I feel about the DC cinematic universe. Completely.
Right.
And it's made me really excited for what's to come, except I don't think what has been set up to come is coming anymore. So that's just gutted me.
It's like just as you get on board the train pulls into the station and everyone off. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's like, so you've got this new Batman movie coming with what's his name?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
Patterson.
Part of me's like, I don't care how good it is, my dreams are broken.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm gonna see it because
Yeah.
I always do. But I'm just.
And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's about having more faith in what you're doing. I don't know, because, like I said, I'm going through the Marvel sort of rewatch at the moment in Time and Order, and I'm really enjoying it. And like I've missed off this week, so my next one is For the Dark World, and like. I don't know if it was just the Marvel train just kept going. Do you know what I mean? Even when there were ones that maybe weren't as successful or weren't, it gathered enough steam. It's like, you know what, we've got faith in what we're doing. We're going to keep going. And I don't know if with the DC stuff, and maybe it's where Justice League went wrong was because I think what happened was because Batman v Superman got such a bad reception from a lot of people.
Well, there was a whole heap of stuff about Zack Snyder just getting exhausted by having to fight the studio changes.
Mm.
And I think where you're going with that is exactly right. I think, the reaction just made the studio go, right, I think we probably need to do this. And Zach's going, look, let's stick to the vision. Let's stick to the plan. And they're like, yeah, well, we better change things because of what? No, that's the mistake.
And then obviously because of what happened to his daughter, he sort of, him and his missus sort of left the project or whatever. Then they brought in sort of Joss, who basically, just from what I can gather, I mean, there's some really interesting articles on it actually. Just reshot whole sections of it, and as we're going to get into the movie anyway, I mean, let's get into it now. Let's just get into it. My biggest takeaway from those 4 hours was I knew it was 4 hours, so I knew obviously there was going to be a lot of content in there that I hadn't seen before. But what surprised me was how much of the content that was in there had been changed or slightly edited or reshot by Joss Whedon.
Yeah. I mean, my memory of the original isn't great, but I still came out of it going, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, even to the point of it's got completely new significance for characters like Cyborg. I feel like Cyborg got done dirty in the theatre cut.
Look, man. I call it as we see it. Like the Flash and Cyborg got done a dirty, man.
Proper, because I was like, yeah, I'm trying, but I'm not really feeling the Flash. This one, I was like, still find you mildly annoying, but I'm beginning to see the motivation behind it now, and I'm seeing I don't know. I began to believe in those two characters, which I did not before. I didn't. They were just kind of there.
Well, the difference is in this version they were characters.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas in the other version they were just
set dressing.
Set dressing. Yeah. It just didn't really do much, really. And it was all down to the rest of them to the heavy lifting. Whereas this one, and one of the things, I mean, right, it's really difficult to kind of frame this. Do you know what I mean? So I want to say, my overall, I loved it. Was it perfect? No, but what film is these?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
I'm really getting annoyed with people going, no, it was an enjoyable movie. It had its flaws. Just stop with that. Every movie's got its flaws. Every damn movie.
So before we get into the stuff that we liked, right? I'll say, if I had to say what didn't work is wrong to put it, but because a lot of people talked about, this, you could have lost an hour with if you took out all the slow-mo.
I am not.
Right?
I am not getting. Excuse me. I've seen a lot of people talk about the amount of slow mo, and the first time through, I finished it, and I remember going into it thinking, "Oh, there's going to be so much slow mo," and I finished it going, "Was there?"
So my thing is, I'm like, you're looking at a kid. He grew up playing $6 Million Man with his brothers, right? Running around, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be a lot of people that won't get that sound effect, but if you get that sound effect, you know where I'm coming from, right? So I used to spend like time as a kid doing slow-mo punches, doing that with my brothers and stuff like that. So I'm probably the wrong crowd.
Because I feel it.
Because slow-mo, I'm all about slow-mo.
I remember saying to someone, I know that I will have become, how you define success as an actor is up to you, yeah? And I've defined I define success as being in a slow motion sequence in a movie. Once I'm in a slow motion sequence, I'm a successful actor, especially if there's an explosion in the background.
Do you know what, right? It's like when we did that thing for BBC and there's literally a 5-second shot of me and you walking in slow motion. And like that, that's all my dreams come true.
All we needed something to blow up behind us. Don't even look back.
Yeah, stick an explosion behind it. It was sorted. You know? So I had no problem.
None.
With the slow-mo. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? complaints on the email address, complaints, send them in. The response is still going to be, I didn't have any problem with it.
The other thing a lot of people had problem with was the soundtrack and like the woman wailing soundtracks. I loved it. I thought it was atmospheric.
I just kept thinking they got the person who did Xena. It's like, look, man, we've got Wonder Woman. Can you come and do some music? Yeah, it's all good, man. I personally, I preferred it to what they did in the Justice League, because in Justice League they kept using that same Wonder Woman riff, and they used that. They overused that, whereas in this one they used that kind of Celtic thing. And yeah, people could say it was overused, but I liked it. It just, I don't know. I saw some people more mythical.
I saw some people going, he was indulgent. So like in Iceland, they had those three women singing Icelandic song. Goes, what you should have done was just have a little bit of it, but no, being Snyder, he had to have the whole damn song. And I was like, I thought that was atmospheric.
My thing was what I liked about it, and I think I don't know if we nailed it when we were recording or if it was just before we started. No, it was a review I was listening to. That was it. And he nailed it. He was saying that the whole concept of the Justice League within this film, certainly this version, is that, once upon a time, all the old gods came together to, fight an evil god, Darkseid, and kick him off Earth. And what this is showing us the new gods coming together to kind of effectively do the same thing, to stand against Darkseid, and that's what the Justice League is. And that in itself is the difference between like your DC and your Marvel. I'm not saying
at its very basic level, that has always been a charge that has been leveled between them. Marvel's much more relatable, DC's much more godlike, which is, you can argue with, but I suppose, you're talking you're talking big archetypes in DC.
Yeah. And so for me, some of the stuff that they were doing in this film, these characters were, take Batman equation. Batman is the kind of, the most advanced human. He's bringing them all together and stuff like that. But like Aquaman and like Wonder Woman and Superman, they're effectively being revered as gods. Gods among us. So that sequence with Aquaman at the beginning, I really liked it because it kind of,
it's quite portentous.
It came across as like, this guy's a god to them. He's the god of the sea. Do you know what I mean? He's and it's almost like they're worshipping him.
I don't. If he's god of the sea, you'd think he must have a huge clothing budget, because every time he goes,
I did think that.
But Siobhan was like, "This is just gratuitous." She was like, "I'm okay with it."
Yeah, just eat the sack.
It was like every single time he goes, he just rips off his top and throws it away, and I'm like, how many have you got? And where'd you keep them?
What I don't get, is it a bit like James Brown? So when he swims to the next destination, he gets out, there's a hype man waiting for him with a jumper.
Wow!
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, why are you taking a jumper? What I don't understand, because you obviously were cold enough to put it on in the first place.
Isn't it?
So I don't. Anywho. I mean, to be fair, if I was ripped like that, I wouldn't even wear a jumper in the first place. But there we go.
I think that's a really good point. And I think what Snyder's done is gone, do you know what? These are portentous moments. I don't see the need to rush them. And I kind of respect that. And I mean, I think you're seeing that more now anyway, with things like, I mean, look at recent WandaVision. Lots of people jumped ship because it was taking too long to get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people, having watched the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think some people might make the same claim. What's all this family drama about? But I think that's where we're moving towards. And personally, I was happy with it. And do you know how I saw it? I actually saw it as a 7 episode TV series that I was binging. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
And because I don't understand how, I think for the Justice League in its current form to work, it had to be this long. And a film this long would never have got into the cinema. So I don't understand how it was ever going to work as a theatrical release,
Yes.
which is why I'm calling it a binge TV series rather than a movie.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe, and I'm putting Mariah's hat on now. Maybe yes, you can sit with something with a pair of scissors, and maybe you can trim off some bits here and there. But for me, the only bit I could say you could have taken out of it and not have necessarily harmed the story, just because I know odds are we're not going to get any more, would have been a good chunk of the epilogue.
Yeah, which I mean, the epilogue was one of the things that really excited me until I figured out that it's pointless now.
Yeah, and I think, because a lot of people are going, "Well, he didn't need the epilogue," but in my mind, if I knew, if like you said, let's just say, playing devil's advocate, they'd been able to drop this 4-hour cut. There'd been no Justice League, and this is the cut that had come out, right? And we were going to get Justice League 2 and blah, blah, blah. And it was all being set up.
I think people would have lost their minds, man.
People would have lost their minds on that because you would have known stuff was coming. To me, it's the equivalent of like saying you're going to drop Infinity War, and no, you know what I mean? It's like, well, there's no end game. It's just Infinity War.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's what, you know what? That's what it feels like. Oh, the frustration is real, man.
So whereas I think if you completely lifted out the epilogue and you had ended it, the bit where it all kind of just standing there looking down onto some kind of ledge thing, and then all of them are sort of standing looking down.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because in the Justice League version, the shot is different. They're kind of looking out, not looking down, and it's really interesting choice because in my mind, the Zack Snyder view gives it a bit more of like the gods above us type view.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's not what I want to say. If you cut it there, it's happy days.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's like, yay! The Justice League's come together. They've saved the day. Yes, there's that potential dark side's going to come back, but that's what you want to do in it. You leave lingering threads. But when you've got the epilogue there, like you say, the promise of the epilogue is just so boom.
I know, and all the nightmare scenes, as they're calling them. To me, I've always said what one of the things that DC movies have done to separate themselves from Marvel is not have the post credits and mid credit scene. And they're basically, with those visions, those nightmare visions, they're basically putting their post-credit scene in the movie. And they're using the visions to do it. And I thought, I like that. I think that's clever.
Yeah.
And what they were showing was like, what? And so the nightmare vision where Superman was like under Darkseid's control.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently, and I missed this, it's only when I've gone back and looked at pictures. There's a dead body in it. There's a few dead bodies, and one of them is Kilowog.
Really?
Yeah.
Green Lantern, isn't it?
Yeah, got dead Kilowog there, man.
Damn. I know it's the Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
It's so difficult because there's so much depth because it's like 4 hours. There's so much content to kind of talk about. Do you know what I mean? But off the top of my, I've got to say, like the visuals and the action sequences, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the fact that in this version, like, because I felt in the Justice League version that basically it was all about bringing Superman back, and once Superman came back, it was game over.
Yeah.
Whereas in this version, they couldn't. Everyone had a purpose.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And they couldn't have pulled it off without everyone. And the thing that I didn't see, which actually was quite a nice twist, was the bit where like Cyborg's trying to like get into like the mother box. And he doesn't do it, and he's like, oh, he's too late, and it all explodes. I actually thought, because I'd heard rumors that it was going to be a cliffhanger, and I was like, oh, don't be putting an Infinity War on me, man. Don't tell me that's where you're going to end it. And I thought it was then going to jump to like the nightmare scene, and that was how it was going to end.
Mm.
So then when it flips to Barry, and he's like, I've got to go fast. I've got to go fast. I've got to break that. I've got to, you know what I mean? I've got to go fast and speed of light. I was like, okay, that whole if you had to put back one sequence in that film, that's the sequence you put back in.
Yeah.
That's because I literally sat there. I was like, that's the Flash from like the Justice League animated, man. Where you know that piece where he has to run, he runs around the world.
Yeah.
That for me was proper, and there was no joking. He weren't joking.
Yeah, for real.
And it's a bit when he's running, he's like, Dad, you know what I mean? I was one of them. I was the best of the best. I was like, God, man, no future, no past. It's all now. I was like, that is proper. That sequence was proper, man.
So, do you know? So I'm just thinking about some of the Easter eggs that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
So Zack Snyder was greatly influenced by John Borman, who did Excalibur. Do you remember Excalibur?
Oh yeah.
So the bit when they're resurrecting Superman and you hear this voice I think it's a computer's voice go, "The future has taken root in the present."
Vaguely.
Well, his voice says that. Those words were spoken by Merlin in Excalibur.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah, man, just keep. I love them little things.
And even the way they dealt with Superman coming back,
it made sense this time.
Yeah.
I didn't get it last time, and this makes sense. And it's not just the way he came back; it's the fact that this time you managed to convince me that people loved him and why. Because last time I was like, why do people care? Why do people care that he's gone? But this time you took the time to do that. Sorry, can we step back a bit? I've suddenly realised the one thing that people talk about they don't like that bothered me.
Okay.
And it's practically the only thing. It was the aspect ratio.
Oh, where it's kind of like
it's like a bot. Screen. Yeah, and it's like I suppose 20 years ago it wouldn't have bothered me at all, but because I'm so not used to it, it just felt weird. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I don't know why. Okay, whatever reason you made it, fine. But I don't understand. But anyway, that was that. But I wanted to say that because I couldn't really. I'm genuinely going to say I can't think of much else I didn't like.
No, no.
Here's another Easter egg for you. So Lois Lane is taking coffee to the cop called Jerry.
I know, yeah, that's Jimmy Olsen, isn't it?
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, man.
I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, first the minute you saw him, I was like, that's Jimmy Olsen, man.
I didn't click, man. I had to find it out later, but I was like, yeah.
But the sequence, there was a lot of. The film was epic. You know what I'm saying? The film was epic in the way the original wasn't, and one of the things I loved about the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman is there was an epicness to it, and epic scenes in it. And for me, the bit where Clark goes back to the ship, goes back to his ship or whatever it is, or is it the fortress? I'm not sure where he goes. Does he go to the fortress?
Which bit?
The bit where he gets his outfit. He gets the
That's
black
a fortress because I think
fortress, isn't it?
Yeah.
When he's walking through, and you hear the way they do it, they use like Pa Kent's voice, and they use Jarrell's voice, and they're both saying this. They're both coming from different points of view, and they're both just dropping the lines. And then I think one of them says something like, you know what I mean, it's time, fly or something like that. And that's when he kind of flies. Like, I was out of my chair, man. I was out of my chair.
Love that.
And he's dropping that kind of, and I still feel like so many people have tried to copy that kind of Marlon Brando speech. Do you know what I mean? Son becomes a father. But I have to say, in that Man of Steel, when he drops that speech, it's like, and they'll race behind you, they'll stumble, they'll fall, but in time, you know what I mean, they will join you in the sun, and together you will help them accomplish miracles or wonders or something like that. And they use some of those lines. Man, I was like, that's how you bring back Superman.
Oh, can I just say, going back to Man of Steel, I'd forgotten that the first 15, 20 minutes of that film is some serious Kryptonian action.
Yeah, man.
I'd forgotten how tough that was. That was so good, man. That set me up.
But also, my only it's not like a criticism and something I didn't like, but it's more of a something I would have liked to have had explained a little bit more. And the more I think about it, the more I'm now starting maybe answering my own question, was why he chose the black costume.
Yeah, no, I didn't quite understand that one either.
And I'm thinking it through. I'm thinking that was the traditional Kryptonian. Because when you look at Man of Steel, when you look at when they catch Zod on that lot,
Yeah.
and they've got them in the outfit, it's that kind of outfit. It's that kind of black. So is it him kind of saying, do you know what I mean? I'm back, but I'm Kal-El now. I don't know. That was the only bit I was a bit kind of like, don't get me wrong, I like the outfit, but I would have liked it a bit more explained.
Yeah.
As to why.
So I've just did a little search here. It says Snyder says the choice represents Superman's personal journey and his relationship with his family since everyone from his home planet Krypton wore black suits.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. But I think unless you kind of watched Man of Steel quite recently,
apparently that's what he wore in the comic as well when he was resurrected.
It was, it was. But again, I don't know, maybe a little bit. Yeah, that's me just picking. You know
because I felt like it was important, but I didn't get why, and it was one of those things you had to go, what? Okay, whatever. That's you kind of did
pretty
that.
much,
yeah. Also, once again, Amazon's just
that sequence.
You know,
man.
So I showed the first part of that sequence to Alana, who's 9. That was a mistake. Really? She was in tears. And I was like, did I do wrong to show that to you, sweetheart? She went, no, I'm glad you did. I said, so why are you crying? And she goes, because they did what they needed to do to save the world, even though they knew they weren't going to make it. She goes, that's just so, and she just cried about it. And I was like, wow. I was like,
wow, I'll stay with it, man.
Yeah, no, I was,
And this is what I mean by, because effectively it's exactly story beat wise, it's exactly the same as Joss Whedon's version. Right? Steppenwolf goes to Amazon to get the box. They're in the camping, they protect it. He gets there eventually, but they kind of seal it, and a lot of them die and whatever. So it's the same thing, the same story beat, but the way when you see the Zack Snyder one, because the fight is much more intense.
Oh my word!
Do you know what I mean? And there's much more skill, and there's much more like.
You know how I'm in love with at the moment is the Amazons whose sole job it is
to take out the beam.
Take out the gates, to drop the gates, and I'm like, oh my word!
And the thing, and to be fair, it was in the original one as well. But I always like that piece where they like, close it, and they're like lash the things out. But it's the two at the end. They kind of like they see the Queen chipping, and they catch it on their backs to hold it so she can get through.
I love it. It's like they don't even need to exchange a look. They know they've got to do what they do. You know what I mean? That's what they do. It's like,
and still, man, the MVP of that scene, man, is that one Amazon who like she lands with it or whatever, and she can see Steppenwolf coming. And she ties the arrow around the
and sends it on its way.
Off. She knows she's done, man.
Her last action sends it on its way. Man. I know. I mean, I've never seen that. That is putting it on the line. That's that kind of self-sacrifice thing always gets me every time.
Yeah. That and the sequence where it was the old gods when it was kind of like Zeus and Hercules and all them boys.
Oh man. That was so. That there was a Green Lantern in that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
His name is his name is Yalan Gur. And he's in the comics. If you go online to try and find his first comic, you won't find it. It's not online because the guy who created him, who wrote it, who's a comic writer I used to really like. I love this stuff. I've got loads of his comics. Yeah, he eventually pleaded guilty to uploading child porn, and went to prison for 6 years. So. They've you won't find any of his comics online on Comixology anywhere like that. They kind of just been totally removed.
So I'm guessing that news came out after they
I don't know, because I was just I got on. I want to know who that Green Lantern is, and now I know.
Not being funny, but I mean, Green Lantern Corps. There's plenty of them. You could
I
show.
know, yeah.
You
No,
know
but
what I
they
mean?
used so that guy. He's only been in 3 comics, but they used him to explain how, um, Green Lantern of Earth 2. You know how they merged their worlds and whatever. They kind of used it to explain why their rings were slightly different, and they gave them a
Right.
whole like mythology. But just to see like the old gods, the Amazons, the whatever, all of them just working together, and the way they were just all putting it on the line, I'm like, wow, I
Yeah,
love
man.
that scene.
And they
So bad.
roughed up Darkseid.
Yeah, isn't it?
He got roughed up, man. I thought it was quite a good way to show it as well, as the fact that he was obviously a lot younger, and even though he was still powerful, you know what I mean? They were able to take him on, but it still took the level of combined power to take him out, or to kind of wound him and that's what I loved about that last scene. It's the bit where when Superman turns up,
Mm.
right? And it was a bit of I think they used some of the old Superman theme music, and he was much more. They tried to kind of make him more kind of Christopher Reeve-ish, and this is Superman that we want to see type thing. And I can see what they're doing with that. You know what I mean? But again, I still come back to the, I don't think, and Henry Cavill's Superman is perhaps as dark and somber as people make him out to be, because they're trying to portray him as an immortal being, and that the Clark Kent is the more human side of him, which is what we see. But what I loved is when he just turned up, the way he turns up when Steppenwolf I can't think who he was going to kill, and he just comes in front and the axe shatters at him.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no, the axe just lands at him.
And he goes, not impressed.
Not
Is
impressed.
that what you said?
And then literally, and then he just blows cold breath and shatters the axe. I think just those two before, and then he just thumps him, right? That sequence there, given how you set up Steppenwolf, was enough to sort of go, okay. But in the original version, it was Soups that was just kind of wiping the floor of him. So what I liked was he then drops down, and then everyone just wails at him.
Yeah.
And I think when he lands, Wonder Woman's laughing. There's a bit where he lands, one's like, "Oh, you got it. You're gonna get it now, man." It was. And they used Batman really well in it as well.
Yeah. Because he played to his strengths.
Yeah, and these were in the original. That kind of thing he came up with, and he'd been working on it throughout the film. Him and Alfred, the gauntlets, and he nicked the idea from Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So when he has the sort of face off with Superman, and Superman tries to use a heat vision, he's able to deflect it with the gauntlet. That to me, like, I'm like, that's Batman.
Yeah.
That's Batman. My boy's thinking on his, you know what I mean? That's Batman. So in the whole, he bring them together. He's got the plan. He's strategizing with them. Nah, man. Nah, they made him play to his strengths, man. And they and people might argue if they're putting a gun in his hand and all that, but my boy was out of his depth in terms of like power set.
For real.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was like, because they're kind of trying to keep it real. There was no way he could play with the gods without a little something. Do you know what I mean?
There's only so many like double right hook and left hook you can do, man.
Yeah, and he's armored up and he's padded, but there's only so many licks he could take. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. There's a few other Easter eggs I wanted to point out because I like them. Ryan Choi.
Yeah, because I remember the name from the Arrow verse crossover-y thing.
So he becomes the Atom, who's able to shrink. So, but I mean, they were blatantly setting him up because he had he was there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Front and center, blatantly setting him up. Crispus Allen, do you recognize him?
No.
So when Commissioner Gordon was talking to one of his officers,
that's not the Spectre, is it?
That's the guy who becomes the Spectre.
Damn.
But while he was working the street, he was partnered with Renee Montoya, who becomes the Question.
Yeah.
So I was like, Crispus Allen, yeah. I was just proper getting into it.
Also, can we just give a quick nod to Martian Manhunter?
Oh, mate. I can't tell you how excited that made me. I can't tell you how excited that made me.
Again,
But
that
this
was
is what I
worth.
mean. They were sitting. Oh, I might wear black tomorrow to grieve for what we've lost.
Fucking
and
brilliant.
I think the problem now is I think they've hamstrung DC universe effort. How do you go forward now? How do you go forward with a concentrated effort to make a universe that hangs together when now you're not doing it? Now you've got a new Batman that doesn't even connect to this whole stuff we've just seen.
Yeah.
You're building shit.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. And the problem is, because now there's a thing now. I mean, we're moving to sort of round up, but the next hashtag now is the restore the Snyderverse. That people are trying to.
I could get behind that.
But I think the problem with, because also we have to, this worked, right? For me, this worked, and there was a 4-hour cut out there, and it worked, and the experiment worked, and I certainly was very happy with it. But there's plenty of films out there where I don't need to see a 4-hour cut of. Do you know what I mean? Suicide Squad or whatever. And and I don't know. Maybe have we started a slippery slope now where people are just going to demand things now? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But in terms of the Restore the Snyder cut, Snyderverse, sorry. I don't necessarily need to see him go off and do like another 8 movies, but I tell you what, man, I'd like to see him round this one up.
Yeah. I mean, you're teasing me with Deathstroke because Deathstroke's a badass.
Did you see how they reshot that scene?
Yes.
Because that originally was a end credit scene, but I watched the end credit scene, and what they stuck on that one is different.
Okay, I can't remember.
Because in the original end credit scene, the bit in this one you would have seen where Deathstroke rocks up to Luthor's boat, and in the original end credit scene, he rocks up to his boat, and Lex sort of says, "Oh, I hear they're starting the league," or I don't know, something stupid like that.
Yes.
And he says, "Oh, maybe we should have a league of our own,or whatever it is."
And like the Justice League.
Yeah. That was how that. But this version I think was better, much better.
Because I actually found myself. I remember that when they said that, I kind of like, oh, are we there yet? I don't know. We were ready to introduce 100 more characters who are villains and blah blah blah. I was like, but I like this. Which just makes me sad. And also, you see, right? So, Deathstroke, Slade, he's getting ready to hunt Batman, and the next thing you see is that post-apocalyptic vision where they're on the same side. And you're like, what? What are we miss? I really want to see how we got here. Do you know what I mean? I'm more than ready now.
Yeah.
So I'm just getting even, and also you see the different. So you saw Barry Allen, in this movie, and in the apocalyptic version, he had nothing to say.
Yeah,
he just stood there looking mean. So what had he been through? So all of that, I'm like, what's happened? I need to know.
And also, what was the plan? Because I thought as well that it was going to show him, because obviously that Flash we saw. We know that's the Flash that goes back to Bruce Wayne because the outfit that he's wearing. Do you know what I mean? But we didn't see him, because I thought that sequence was going to show us him setting off. But it's like, no, we're just getting to that plan.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm just, there's a little part of me that goes, maybe they'll just like do it. maybe the success of this cut will make them go, all right, let's get back on track.
Although he said he doesn't. He says he's done.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure he said he's done with it.
Well, wasn't that something to do with like he's just tired of fighting the studio all the time?
No, I don't know if that was. I think he kind of like he wanted to come back, and because he didn't take any money for it, did he?
Oh, did he not?
No, no, no. I think it all went to might have been a fund or something. But part of that deal was like he then got full creative control.
Right.
I'm sure that's what it
Wow.
was. And there's, like I said, there's a really interesting article kind of explaining it all. So I think one of the high points as well was kind of like someone when they showed the original cut, the sort of Joss Whedon cut in the screening room or whatever. I don't know if because his wife's the producer on it,
Mm.
and I can't think if she saw it. She might have done and said like, "You must never ever watch it." It was something like that. It was something. It was something like that. And obviously, you kind of read it. This is before I saw the film, but you kind of read it. You go, it can't be that different. But wow, after watching that 4-hour cut, I mean, I'd understand that. And I think to put it into context as well for people who sort of go, oh, do we need it? Blah blah blah. I think to myself, like, I'm now working on the final book of my trilogy, right now. For whatever reason, I suddenly decided I couldn't do it, or someone else decided they were going to finish it on behalf of me. But I'd written out like the plot, and I'd written like most of the book. They just had to kind of like dot the T's, cross the, you know what I mean.
Mm.
And you hand it over to someone, and then you come back, and they've literally like chopped out 3/4 of it, and the stuff that's there, they've rewritten it. That's gonna burn.
Yeah.
It's gonna burn at you. Do you know what I mean? It's gonna burn at you, and you'd want to. And if someone then gives you the option to come back and do it your way, then yeah, you probably wouldn't turn it down. So I understand these motivations for going back to it. Fair play. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But there's a difference between doing that when you've already got a 4-hour rough footage to work on, as opposed to like starting that all from scratch again. And I don't
I
know.
know. I just think.
know.
I think
And there'd
what
be a
makes it.
lot of pressure on it. There'd
But
be
I
a
mean,
lot of pressure.
what makes it hard is all the things that are set up in this movie. That's what makes it hard to deal with.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing uh what's her name? Anne Sarnoff, who is the Warner Media Studio CEO. She just shut it down.
Oh, okay.
Basically, she goes, "I appreciate that that'll be us. I always worry when people use the word they. There's something about that makes me go, you've already decided you ain't interested." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I appreciate that they love Zack's work, and we are very thankful for his many contributions to DC. We're just so happy that he could bring his cut of Justice League to life, because that wasn't in the plan until about a year ago. With that comes the completion of his trilogy.
Yeah.
That being Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and now this. And it goes, it should be noted that part of the reason why there's increased demand to restore the Snyderverse is because certain things are set up at the end of the movie for future stories, which has got me excited. That's obvious from listening to this. But Ann Sarnoff's comments suggest that those cliffhangers will face the same fate as those featured in the theatrical cut of Justice League. So her final statement was, "We're very happy we've done this, but we're very excited about the plans we have for all the multi-dimensional DC characters that are being developed right now." So my thing to that is, I do believe you're happy you've done this, or it wouldn't have happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're excited for the multi-dimensional. You're doing Batman again. Yeah, your words aren't quite resonating with me.
And
Admittedly, I just saw a thing today saying they're doing as the Tanner movie.
Yeah, but I keep hearing it's like every day I keep hearing they're doing a different DC movie. But where are they? You know what I'm saying?
And also, now that you've taken away, now that we've not got a running thread, where's it going? Where's the universe going? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because once they realized that Marvel was working, they put together a plan to give it a cohesive thread. But you've just taken the cohesive thread away from DC.
And I think what happened after that was they then sort of went, you know what? this ain't working, so we're going to do solo movies. That was the vibe I got with like Aquaman, and like I haven't seen Shazam yet, to be fair, but from what I heard, there's no thread for it. It's just
it's blatantly the same universe, but it does stand alone. And you know what? I'm happy with that. And if I'd never seen this,
you'd carry on happy.
I'd carry on being happy with that. I'd be like, okay, so it goes. But no. Also, watching this, I haven't watched Wonder Woman last week and watched Batman versus Superman and watched this all in the same week. It's made me even more unhappy with Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
So if this comes back into your response about multi-dimensional DC characters, I'm not. You just worry me for what's coming next.
Yeah. So this is what he says. As recently as Feb 20, he talked about studio not being on board with the idea of releasing a sequel. Speaking to the Minuteman podcast, he said, "As far as I know, there's no interest and/or appetite to do more of these movies from Warner Brothers, with me anyway." So that's what I mean. I don't know, and that's what I mean. I think he wanted to tell his. Oh, okay. In the interview with Vanity Fair, Snyder elaborated that when Darkseid comes to Earth after the events of the first Justice League, Lex Luthor would team up with the villain. Meanwhile, Superman would task Batman with protecting Lois Lane while he battles with Darkseid. Okay.
So give me that again.
All of it.
Yeah. So I got distracted by Jason Momoa.
Okay. So Snyder elaborated that when Darkseid, hang on. Right, he outlines the sequel downbeat premise. It's the fall of Earth when Superman succumbs to the anti-life equation, and then sending flashback in time to change one element so that doesn't happen. When Darkseid comes to Earth after the events of the first Justice League, Lex Luthor would team up with the villain. Meanwhile, Superman would task Batman with protecting Lois Lane while he battles with Darkseid. Lex tells Darkseid that the key to Superman's weaknesses is Lois Lane. For whatever reason, Batman fails. Darkseid comes back and kills Lois. Batman fails. He hesitates. Basically, Batman gets distracted, fails to protect Lois. Ooh, yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, why would they argue? In Snyder's original vision, Batman falls in love with Lois. Yeah, I don't like that.
Oh, no, what's that about?
Fuck that.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that the whole kind of it's all Lois thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I quite like. I prefer the idea that it's the anti-life equation that kind of corrupts him.
Yeah. I think it's well. I mean, if the love of his life dies and it makes him more susceptible to being taken over, then, I could see that. But having Lois be the center of everyone's world, that don't work for me.
No.
I don't really buy films at the moment. I'd buy this film.
I'd buy it.
I'd buy it, put it on my shelf so I could see the DVD cover, the Blu-ray cover. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd buy it.
I liked it that much. I've got no problem. Most of the things people are saying are the flaws. Personally, I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm easy to please. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is how I came out of it feeling. And I'm on my second watch through.
Yeah. Like I said, my only change for it is only because I don't think we're going to see any more, which would be to lift out them scenes. But then them scenes were still badass. So
so badass. Yeah. So I did have one Easter egg because I just love this stuff, man. So the mother box in Star Labs they go, what's the score of Object 61982?
Also, his dad. Sorry, he didn't even talk about
Joe Morton. Yeah.
Cyborg's dad. Boom.
Oh man,
that whole relationship, man, was completely
which matured
lost.
and his final sacrifice.
I also quite like the way they showed Cyborg's powers.
Yeah, I know, because he ain't just a cyborg. They established him as a major powerhouse.
Yeah.
In the universe. I mean, that's new and that's nice. But the other thing that it made me think of was that there's a theme here, and all of it is about parenthood and and family and childhood and bridging the gaps between generations. And when you take into account that there must be part of that influencing where that was going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's quite. I think there's a big profundity in what's in the storylines that are going on there, and it's all about heritage and lost heritage and regaining heritage and carrying on in your parents' footprints or whatever. And you know, there's a lot to unpack in this. There's a lot going on.
Kicked ass, man.
Yeah. So yeah, Object 61982. So June 1982, 6982. That's the comic. That's the year the comic came out. Tales of New Teen Titans 1, which had Cyborg's origin for the first time.
Nice.
And I love it when they do stuff like that, man. That's just like, so you could Snyder knows his shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not just going, yeah, I fancy this project. It's obviously a passion project for him. So yeah, there we go.
Round us up, buddy.
Yeah, so you know what? I feel like this episode should be titled "A Bunch of Unpopular Opinions" because I'm just looking at, and you know what? I don't care. Bring it. If you think we were talking, if you liked what we said, or if you thought we were talking nonsense, you can let us know at the Geeks at geeksyndicate.co.uk. Don't forget to check out the website, geeksyndicate.co.uk. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You know the score. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com or to subscribe to us on Patreon. Either way, I think we are both well pleased with the watching experience, and
we are indeed.
We'd like to know. We know I've seen Marmite opinions on this, so it'll be interested to see what people think.
Yeah,
but I think it's quite obvious where we stand in this debate. And for me, like I said, it's not just enjoying this film; it's reignited my love for the DC cinematic universe. I need to dash it.
I told you, man. Just when you get to the end of the Justice League, just that bit where they're all standing there looking down on us after they've saved us all, just turn it off.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah,
it feels like it's all round. I'm telling you, man, at that bit, it all rounds up quite neatly. You know what I mean? Forget the epilogue, just that bit. Or watch the epilogue first, and then I don't know. But
I feel like so Siobhan's watching it now. We're halfway through, and then like if I show her the epilogue, she's gonna be like, we can't wait to see what happens next." I'd be like, yeah, about that." It's like, so yeah. Anyway, so that's us. Till next time, Geek Syndicate. We out.